Today we're going to be discussing one of the most controversial brachas out there, Shelo Asani Isha, that you did not create me a woman. Now this is a bracha that every man says every single morning, and today we're going to go in a little bit to feminism and Judaism. Do they go together? Do they contradict each other? And stay tuned, I think it's going to be an interesting class, and Be'ezrat Hashem we're going to dive into it. In order to understand this bracha, we have to understand the context of the bracha. It comes in a series of three brachot. One is Shelo Asani Goy, the second one is Shelo Asani Abed, and the third one is Shelo Asani Isha, that I am not a Gentile, I'm not a slave, and I'm not a woman. Now, studying these three brachot, we understand that there's a correlation, and that's by the amount of mitzvot that these different categories are need to keep. Goyim, they are obligated to keep 7 mitzvot. Meaning, if a regular male Jew needs to keep 613 mitzvot, a Gentile, a non-Jew, needs to keep 7. A slave, even if you're a Jewish slave, you're exempt from time-bound mitzvot. That means that you have less mitzvot and less opportunities to get connected throughout your day to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Women are also exempt from time-bound mitzvot. And then we have to understand the reason behind that. So there are 3 main reasons that Chazal give us why women are exempt from time-bound mitzvot. Reason number 1 is because traditionally women were in charge mainly on the house and the house tasks. Now this changed a lot in the last 50 years, the last 100 years, but let's go traditionally. Traditionally, the man would go out to the fields and he would work, he would bring home whatever he was working at, and he would bring home the money, bring home the produce into the house. And the woman was in charge of the house, whether raising the kids, taking care of the cooking, the cleaning, everything that needs to be done in the house, to be dealt in the house, that was the woman's job. Now, a lot changed in the world in the last 80 years. Around World War II, when a lot of the men went to the front lines, the women needed to take on these jobs, and because there were no men left, mainly I'm talking about now in the United States, also in different countries in Europe, and women took on these manly jobs. Doctors, lawyers, people working in different industries, and they would go to mamash the front lines of these jobs, and they took it over. After the war, there was a very big question, what's going to happen now? Because the men came back, and now theoretically they could go back to their jobs. It was a very, very long war. There were years outside of their homes, outside of their jobs. And now the real question was, what's going to be the new seder, the new order of things in the household? And over time, the house chores became much easier, meaning to do a wash, to do a laundry, you didn't have to go down to the river and scrub each and every clothes. We have a washing machine. And to cook also became much more accessible because we have running water, we have gas. We're able to do things in an easier way. And also going to work became easier. It became an easier task. It's not working in the field in the heat and using physical strength. Everything became a lot easier. And therefore, today, in most modern households, it's around 50-50. Also with the household, with the kids, and also going out to work. Obviously, there's changes, right? There are some houses that could be 70-30. There could be houses that's 90-10. There's a lot of different types of households today, but we know that it's definitely not what it was 2,000 years ago, and not even what it was 100 years ago or 50 years ago. Today, the world is much more mi'uzan, much more capable also for women to go out to work, and for men to do more house chores or even stay at home. So the world in that sense changed. But we said that there are 3 reasons that women are exempt from mitzvot shazman gomar. That's one of the reasons. The other reason is because women naturally are much more connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We see this till today across the boards. I'll give you 2 examples. One, there are a lot of studies about the people that go off the derech, that they become irreligious. Now, from the 100% of the people that become irreligious, 80% of them are men. 20% are female. Now, obviously, there's a lot of different statistics, but that's pachot o yoter what most statistics show. And by the way, also becoming religious, around 80% of those who become religious are female, and 20% are male. This also shows us that women are much more connected to spirituality, to their neshama, to their emotions and feelings. We see this also with converts. Approximately in Israel, I'm talking about the statistics in Israel, around 75% of converts are female, and around 25% are male. Now, you could say that there might be other reasons for that. A man might have to go through a brit milah. That's not the most comfortable thing to do when you're in your 20s or 30s. That's true, although most men that are in Israel already had a Brit Milah. They just have to do something called Hatazat Dam, something very, very small. Atafat Dam, something very, very small. But women are much more connected. Another reason that they could say about converts is because at the end of the day, it's up to the mother to make sure, I guess, that her kid is Jewish, right? The Judaism goes through the mother. That's why they feel much more mechuyav, or they want to be Jewish also for the next generations. The guy could say, you know what, I'm not Jewish, but I'll marry a Jewish woman, and my kids will be Jewish, and that would be the easier way out. So there still could be other reasons. However, I also know, seeing my students, I have great students, also boys, also girls. I know that people that are much more passionate about their Yiddishkeit and learning and growing spiritually are the girls. And I think if we look around, most people watching this right now could probably agree that women are much more connected to their emotions. So that's the second reason. And the third reason is because women are mechuyavot, they are obliged to a very, very, very big time-bound mitzvah, but it's objective, not subjective. Okay? Sorry, it's subjective, not objective. It's a mitzvah that every woman needs to keep, and that's called nida, or taharat hamishpacha. Going to the mikvah, doing the checks, etc., etc. That is time-consuming, and it's a mitzvah d'oraita. It's a very, very big mitzvah that every woman or every married woman needs to deal with every month. And therefore, she's exempt from the other mitzvot because she has a time-bound mitzvah that is separate for her, and it's not part of a keilah type of mitzvah. So these are the three reasons that women are exempt from keeping mitzvot shazman gama, time-bound mitzvot. Now, that's the one reason that we have this bracha, is because as a male, I'm able to keep more mitzvot. Another reason is because childbirth, right? Let's just be very honest. Childbirth is probably something that's not the funnest. It's still painful, and women go through a lot going through pregnancy and childbirth, etc. So that could be another possible reason that men make a bracha, Shelo Asani Isha, that certain things in life, we go through it in a easier way. So that could be another reason. But I want to talk for a second about the women's status in Judaism. Now, we know that the men say Shelo Asani Isha, but the women have a very positive bracha. They say She'asani kirtzono. Hashem created me in His will. The will of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is for people to be connected spiritually to HaKadosh Baruch Hu on a much, much higher level. And it's no doubt, there's no doubt in my mind that women have that, and it comes natural for them that they are much, or you are much more connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu without external things, because it's coming from within. Now, part of the punishment for the chet of Etz Hadat, of the sin of Etz Hadat, of Adam and Chava, we see today unfolding. The punishments were like this. Adam, he got the punishment of Bizat Apecha Tavi Lachem, that you're going to work hard for your food. And the woman is Huim Sholbach. The man is going to be the person that controls her. Betzal Til Dibanim, right? You're going to give birth, and it's going to be painful. We also know that they realized that they were naked, they were not dressed, and that there's going to be death in the world. Well, these are the punishments that Adam and Chava get for eating from Etz Hadat. Now, if we look today, in the last 100 years, we see that the Geulah, the return to Gan Eden, is becoming something that's so more apparent. Bizat Apecha Tavi Lachem, we don't have to work as hard physically today in order to bring food home. If 100 years ago, 200 years ago, people would have to go to the fields and physically work really, really hard in the heat or in the winter, it was very hard to make a living. Today, people could sit at computers, at desks, with the AC over them, with the light over them, and it's so much easier. It's so much easier to have a basic life with basic things, needs, and stuff that we need in order to survive. For the women, Huim Sholbach, we know that today, the man in most healthy societies, they don't control women. It's equal, right? I'm talking now to the men. We're not supposed to control the woman. It's supposed to be a shituf pu'ula. It's supposed to be ezel kenegdo. We're supposed to help each other out and not chas v'chel control the other. So we see that the world is changing also on that. Betzal til Davaning, that a woman is going to give birth with a lot of pain and it's going to be very hard. Yes, there is still pain and it's still very hard. So if you're pregnant and watching this, maybe this is the time to turn it off. But compared to 50 years ago, 100 years ago, we can't even compare it because the amount of, first of all, deaths at childbirth were very, very high. Until today, you know if a country is mifutach, if it's developed, by the amount of death at birth. So, Baruch Hashem, in Israel and most of the modern world, these numbers plummeted thanks to medicine and basically thanks to medicine. And also the amount of pain has been reduced. Today there's epidurals, there's other painkillers, there's other ways to deal with childbirth, and it's not exactly the way it was. So that is still, there is pain, but it's not like it was 50 years ago or 100 years ago. So that's another thing. Another aspect is that, like I said, they realized that they were naked. Today, the world is much less modest than it was 50 and 100 years ago. Now, people will say that that's a bad thing, or other people might say that's a good thing. I don't know if it's good or bad. It's a fact, right? Obviously, we have the halachas of tzniut. We need to dress in modest ways, also men, also women. However, the world is changing in that, and we need to focus on that and say what is happening with the society, because we know that 100 years ago things would not fly the way they're flying today. And Am Yisrael, in the last 80 years, have been coming back to the land of Israel, and I think there's a huge correlation between all of these aspects. Another thing is that we said death. Yes, there's still death in the world, and we know that. But if we would go back 100 years ago, in certain places in the world, or 200 years ago, people would die at much younger ages. I'm talking about in most European countries, people would get to 35, 40, 45, and that would be the life expectation. That was the expected life. And today, Baruch Hashem, we know that in Israel, in the US, in Europe, people are getting to 78, 81. That's the average here in Israel for a man is 81. If I'm not mistaken, for a woman, it's 83. And Baruch Hashem, the number is going up and up. I know that the babies that are born today, they say that they're Bezrat Hashem they're expected to live until they're 100. Right? So Baruch Hashem. So again, we didn't beat death, but we're going in the right direction. So all these things correlate back to Shelo Asani Isha. The women's ma'amad in Judaism knew ups and downs. I think Baruch Hashem, we're going to an up, and that's where it should continue going. We know that b'zchut nashim tzadkaniot nigalu avotenu mitzrayim, because of the righteous women, our forefathers were left Egypt. B'zchut nashim tzadkaniot atidin Israel yigael, the people of Israel are in the days to come are going to be redeemed because of these righteous women. And every single time we see that there's a nevuah, a prophecy, between a man and a woman, it's always that the woman is on a higher level. Let's say Avram and Sarah. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to Avram, everything Sarah tells you, listen to her, because she's on a higher spiritual level. Women are on higher spiritual levels. I think as a man, and to the men that might be listening to this, we should listen more often to what women have to say. There's a lot of binah there. It says in the Gemara, binah yetera nitna be'isha. Women have more intuition, right? Intuitia nashit, women intuition. They're able to understand complexity. Today, Baruch Hashem, there's a renaissance of women learning Torah and getting connected to Yiddishkeit in a lot of different ways and forms. And Baruch Hashem, it should only keep on going in that direction. Have a wonderful day.